Welcome to Shardcast. My name is Aaron Froats alongside Zach Wisner, and today we have a matchup between Errantsquire and Soldack, and it appears to be a Ruby versus RubyWild matchup. Zach, what can you tell us about today's matchup?
Yeah, basically what we're going to be looking for, it's two aggro decks, and Errantsquire is going to want to come out really fast with Mono Ruby and just lay out the pain. Soldack's deck is not much slower, so it's just a matter of who can set up first will determine who's the beatdown versus who.
Okay, well, let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and get to it. It looks like we're going to have to go straight to the coin flip here.
We're watching from Errantsquire's perspective, the Mono Ruby deck.
Okay. And it looks like I didn't get a chance to see who won the flip there. I believe Errantsquire won the flip.
Soldack did. Soldack won the flip. Errantsquire's first 7 was no resources, so obviously shipping it back.
Excellent.
For a mostly better and not a whole lot of action. So it's putting him to a slower start.
Okay. Well, it looks like Soldack started with the Shards of Fate, which should help out Errantsquire. Shards of Fate, for those who don't know, is basically a exhausted resource. Allows you to pick any available threshold you have in your deck. That slows you down in the process. Errantsquire comes back with a Ruby Shard and passes his turn back over.
He's drawn the Ruby Pyromancer here, which is going to be a good 2-drop for him. It's going to allow him to set up, if he can draw into more resources, it'll allow him to play out his troops and have them be a little bit powered up to give him a little edge in combat.
Well, it looks like Soldack came back with a Wild Shard, but does not play anything on turn 2. Makes me wonder if he's been stalled, or what's going on there. What do you think, Zach?
Just looks like they're both players kind of have a slower hand. With Soldack not doing anything here with his serve, basically, it's giving it to Errantsquire to be able to make the plays at the start of the game here. He's drawn another Ruby Pyromancer. He's going to go ahead and play both of those out.
Yeah, he does leave with the Ruby Pyromancer and goes ahead and passes his turn back over. We'll see what Soldack does in response here. This is the beginning of turn 3. Soldack goes ahead and plays another Ruby Shard and follows it with Lord Alexander. That's a 3/3 card that gives inspirability of speed to any troop that comes in with a equal or higher casting cost.
It's probably the most important card for a lot of these Ruby-based aggro decks. Giving all of your troops speed is just such a big boon in combat. Just lets you get in that damage so much faster. So it's going to put Soldack pretty far ahead here versus just his little Ruby Pyromancer.
Alright, so Errantsquire plays a Ruby Shard. And going to attack. What card was that there, Zach?
I'm unfamiliar with that particular one. It looked like a 3/1 with speed that when it came down, due to the Ruby Pyromancer, was given +1/+0. He went ahead and played that down and attacked to get in some damage. It looks like Soldack probably isn't going to want to trade the Lord Alexander off for that.
Instead, it looks like he plays a Heat Wave instead, which goes ahead and wiped Errantsquire's board, but leaves Lord Alexander at 1 toughness left, but Errantsquire is out of resources, so he won't be able to burn them in response.
And I have him taking 3 here, which is not too terrible. Basically, they're just in a straight-up race situation. Again, Soldack's a little bit ahead here just due to having a board presence, and the one troop that he has on the board is pretty huge.
Okay, so it looks like Errantsquire on his 4th turn is going to turn on and play a Ruby Pyromancer. Note, he didn't have a Shard that time to play down, so he's stuck at 3 resources here. But we're almost back to turn 2 for Errantsquire. -3 health this time.
It looks like he's drawn the Mancubus here, which isn't going to be terrific given the current board situation, as well as just with Errantsquire's resources. He's not even going to be able to play the 2/3, much less take anything.
Now, it looks like Soldack played a Veteran Gladiator, which is a 3/2 troop that has attack each turn if able. and was granted speed by Lord Alexander, so he's coming on some serious damage here quickly.
And Errantsquire just goes ahead, maximizes his resources, throws out the burn, gets the gladiator off the table, manages to minimize his damage intake this turn.
If I recall correctly, the veteran gladiator, when he attacks, is able to give an opposing troop, take away the opposing troop's ability to block, at least one troop. So as you can see, the Ruby Pyromancer was not able to block there.
I don't know that he would have anyway, truthfully, given the Ruby Pyromancer's ability and both the Zoltag and Mancubus in his hand. Being able to buff the Mancubus will make it a little more relevant.
Well, it looks like Errantsquire drew another Zoltag, so he's got two in hand. Zoltag is a unique troop. What can you tell me about unique troops there, Zach?
Basically, all that means is he can only play one at a time, so a bit of an unfortunate draw here. He would have much rather had the fourth shard to be able to play out his existing Zoltag, or perhaps the Mancubus to try and steal away that Lord Alexander, as it will be buffed from the Ruby Pyromancer, so it'll be able to use its ability to gain control of the Lord Alexander and use it against Soldack here.
That seems good. It looks like the Ruby Pyromancer went ahead, attacked, and put 2 damage in, which leaves Errantsquire with no blockers as we move into turn 5 here.
Yeah, they're just kind of racing at this point. Soldack's a bit ahead just due to the power of his one troop versus the power of Errantsquire's. However, Errantsquire did get in that 4 damage early, so in terms of their health totals at this point, they're both pretty even.
Okay. Looks like Soldack is without a resource this turn, or he's going to hold it second phase. Just goes ahead and swings with Lord Alexander for 3 damage. What can we kind of infer about the fact that Soldack's only got 1 wild threshold?
It possibly is nothing, but likely he's got some bigger troops he's going to want to play in his hand. He does have 5 cards right now, and 4 resources, which is going to be enough to play most, if not all, of the cards in his deck. I haven't seen his list specifically, but typically these more aggressive decks, the RubyWild and the Mono Ruby, like to keep their curves pretty low. So it's likely he's got a Crash of Beasts or some other large wild troop that he just is unable to play right now.
Okay, looks like Errantsquire draws and goes ahead and plays an Ember Spire Witch. It is a 2/2 that comes in with Swift Strike, and champions can't gain health, which I don't see that being an issue here with this kind of deck.
And not going to be particularly relevant. The Swift Strike, however, is very good. Looks like Soldack is burning the Ruby Pyromancer in response, which is going to be very good because now the Ember Spire Witch is not going to be able to just block the Lord Alexander for free. It's going to require additional cards from Errantsquire here to remove the Lord Alexander.
Yeah, because if the Ruby Pyromancer was still in play, the Witch would have been a 3/2 with Swift Strike, meaning blocking the Lord Alexander outright would now just destroyed him, correct?
Yes. The Ember Spire Witch deals damage before Lord Alexander would, so it would have just died horribly, and nothing would have happened. He's opting to not attack here. Perhaps he is wary of the burn in Errantsquire's hand. What that would allow him to do is still manage to block with the Ember Spire Witch and not lose it and kill the Lord Alexander when the priority phase before Soldack's Lord Alexander is able to actually do damage.
Okay, it looks like Errantsquire here is going to put down a Ruby Shard, giving him 4. He uses his champion ability, first one we've seen of the game. He's using Polka the Conflagrator, which gives him a 3/1 Blaze Elemental that comes in speed, but it gets sacrificed at the end of turn. He's going to go ahead and turn and swing for 5 right off the bat here. Do you see a block coming up?
I don't think so. The Blaze Elemental is a one-off, and I don't think Soldack is going to want to trade his Lord Alexander for the 3 damage now. He wants to keep that around. But it looks like Errantsquire is pulling ahead here, able to play the Zoltag now off the 4th Ruby Shard.
Now, being out of resources now for Errantsquire, though, it kind of leaves him in a predicament of not having that burn spell available. If I recall, the champion power for Soldack gives a creature +3/+0.
That's correct.
which would force him to sacrifice Zoltag against him, but it looks like he's just going to take the 3 right off the chin there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's just going to attack in, signaling perhaps he himself has a burn or perhaps another heat wave, and is willing to trade his Lord Alexander and an additional card to take care of that Zoltag.
And there's the heat wave you were talking about, so that will take the Ember's Fire Witch off the board. If he has to burn spell to follow, nope. I'm going to play a Veteran Gladiator again. The significance, I'm guessing, for playing it on turn 2 since it had speed, or I'm sorry, the second main phase, because of the heat wave, correct?
Yeah, he's got to play around his heat wave if that was his plan, to perhaps trade off the Lord Alexander for essentially trading the Lord Alexander and the heat wave for Errantsquire's entire board there. But Errantsquire opts to just take the 3, which probably right given his board state currently. So he's just going to take the damage and take his turn to swing. Basically, activate Zoltag's ability, which is whenever an orc troop deals damage to a champion, you make a 2/1 that has to attack every time.
Okay, and with Lord Alexander exhausted, that 4 damage from Zoltag is going to go through, since the burn took the Gladiator off the board. So Soldack's down to 5 health now, a 2/1 comes out there. That Savage Raider has to attack each turn if able. Now in comes the Mancubus. Is that really relevant now, though?
Not particularly, but he's just maximizing his resources here. He doesn't have another burn in hand, and he can't play the second Zoltag as it is unique. So he's just going to get all the power on the board he can. The Mancubus won't die to a heat wave, nor will the Zoltag, so that's not going to be particularly relevant here. So he's just maximizing his board presence.
Okay, and as you called it, as soon as he got his second wild threshold this turn, Soldack played his Crash of Beasts, which gives him a 3/3 beast with Crush. It came with speed because of Lord Alexander, and now he gave the champion power to make it a 6/3.
But it looks like he's probably not going to opt to attack with it here, because it would be pretty easy for Errantsquire to just trade off his 2 guys if he chose to, or just take the damage and kill Soldack on the crackback.
Alright, now it looks like Errantsquire drew a Veteran Gladiator. In addition to Zoltag, again, he can't play Zoltag one in his hand because he has one on board. So let's see if he plays a Veteran Gladiator here just to get bodies out there.
Yeah, I have to imagine he should. It's going to allow him to pressure here, put Soldack very, very low. However, it also may be pertinent to, yeah, it looks like he's going to play it in his second main phase to hold up a blocker for the Lord Alexander. Because if Soldack chooses to just attack him, he will most likely lose here. He's going to be able to make an orc or 2 if the Zoltag gets through. I don't know about those blocks.
Yeah, it was looking like Soldack had to block something because of his health total. Not sure why we'd leave Zoltag on the board. But now that actually gave a 2/1 out there to block for Errantsquire. Now he can play Veteran Gladiator. Now he has 2 blockers to just the 1 Rhinoceros out there. It's not looking good for Soldack.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to get through the damage that he needs now, because it's basically, like I said, comes down to racing in this matchup, and Errantsquire was able to turn this around really quickly.
All right, here comes Ash Harpy. That's going to be strong. That's a 0/4 with flight, speed, and rage 4. So each time it attacks, it will get +4/+0 permanently. But we're swinging 10. 4 definitely get through. The Crush will get through, but it looks like Errantsquire has just enough to stay alive. He's got 3 defense back.
That's going to allow him to tank some of the damage off the Rhinoceros, take 7 out of this 10, put him to 1, but Soldack, without any additional resources, is just going to die to the crackback here.
Yeah, Errantsquire has to make sure he does block with both, though. If not, that would be game for him. And chooses to block with both, so we're going to see Errantsquire go down to 1 here, which, going back to using your health as a resource, Errantsquire maximized it, going down to 1 health, and we should see the end of the game next turn.
He basically played this pretty well throughout the game, I feel, knowing when he can get away with taking a little extra damage. And we see it balance out here in the end as he's going to take the game with 1 health remaining.
All right, let's go ahead and. Not sure if Soldack is stalling here, or maybe he's contemplating on what he could have done differently. But it's all but over for him.
Unless those 2 cards in his hand are a shard and a burn, this game on Errantsquire's next combat step.
That's a good call. That would have been very, very interesting to see that happen because Soldack did not play a resource this turn. That was entirely possible.
But alas, was not to be. And Errantsquire draws the Rage Fire and opts for the rub-ins.
Nice. Rage Fire only deals 2 damage this time, but all of this is more or less icing on the cake here because any type of attack would have done the damage needed. So we'll see Errantsquire go ahead and finish off Soldack. So that was a pretty good matchup. Zach, what can you also any last thoughts about this matchup?
Basically, with any aggro matchup, any matchup between 2 decks, one is going to be the beatdown and the other is going to be the control. It may not have seemed like either of those decks were really control decks, because they're not, but quickly establishing board presence, asserting the dominance there, and getting ahead is going to allow what allowed Errantsquire to be the beatdown there. To Soldack's control with the heat waves. Soldack played it very well, but ended up being 1 damage short.
Okay. Again, that was Errantsquire versus Soldack. Errantsquire takes the victory with 1 health remaining. And this pretty much concludes our Shardcast for today. We thank you for tuning in and hope you'll join us again next time.